Hi Stampers, it's Lisa with Queen Bee Creations. Welcome to today's live. I am using a different microphone today. I have a new one on order, so that should be here tomorrow. So hopefully we can get these microphone problems under control. I totally apologize. I just got back from New Mexico. I spent 2 weeks out there and then came back here and did our online or her in-person royal retreat. And so I had some pre-scheduled videos that I had filmed in advance, and some of them the sound worked fine and some of them the sound did not. And I did not change anything in my setup. They were all kind of filmed back to back on the same day with the same equipment, same software, same everything. I can't explain why some worked and some didn't, but hopefully I'm getting it fixed. So thank you to everyone who has been kind of hanging in as I deal with my technical difficulties, because we do have some fun cards. Today we are doing the Stepper card. So this is one that is out of book 3 of my Fun Fold tutorial cards. And I can't wait to show you how it's done. And then I've also got some examples of what we did at retreat, because I am going to do an online version of my royal retreat with all the bag and t-shirt and goodies and all the good stuff. And I've got the examples of the cards to show you. And I've also got Thursday's card done and ready to go. So hang in and let's get started. Okay, we're going to be using a new suite called the Jolly Delivery Suite. And we're using just the stamps and dies and, designer series paper. But there's another die that actually makes a 3D box. Sorry, went over to the die cutting machine to go grab that. And I should probably move the mic because this one is directional. So I'm going to mute myself, move it, and turn it back on. Okay, so hopefully you can hear me and all is good. This is the set of dies. As I said, they cut out the little animals and the letters, the package, the puppy feet, the mailbox, all the good stuff that goes with the stamp set. But then in addition to that is this great little box. So if you had little treats that you wanted to make to hand out, they're great at Christmas time, little goodies that you can hand out to, the mailman, the hairdresser, all those sorts of things. This die makes cute little boxes that we will play with later. I'm also going to be using this bundle for another online retreat we're going to do on Zoom. Some of you remember when I used to work with Laura Buchler from Canada, and she and I would go on Zoom on a Saturday and we would make several cards, and we kind of tag teamed it. And she decided she wanted to back away and do more in-person stuff. Well, another demonstrator, Diane Evans from Canada, has approached me and she would like to do that with me. So we are planning one for August, and we are using this bundle. So that's coming on as well. But today we're doing our Stepper card, and let's go ahead and get started with that. I haven't seen any complaints about the audio yet, so hopefully that's working. Okay, so this is what we're starting out with. And this is 5.5 by 11. And then I used my Simply Scored. Whenever I'm scoring things, I actually prefer to use the Simply Scored. This is a great little scoring tool that has a little hatch up here that holds all these little markers that you can take out and put in where you want to score. So if you are doing cards like a card in a box or something where the measurements need to be precise, these are every 1/8 of an inch or quarter of an inch. Oof. 1/8 of an inch. Yeah. It looks bigger than that. But anyway, what I'm doing is I'm putting my card base in here. So 5.5 by 11. I'm scoring it at 1 1/4, 2 1/2, 4 1/4, 6 and 8 1/2. And when it comes with a stylus, but you can also use the stylus that comes with your take your pick tool. And this, just like the other one, has 2 ends to it. There's the smaller end that I use with cardstock. And then there is the larger end that I use with designer series paper, because the larger ball sits on top, whereas the smaller one goes in a little deeper, because you don't want to go too deep with designer series paper because it could rip. But you just line it up with your little mark where you want it, and then you drag it down. So again, 1 1/4, 2 1/2, 4 1/4, 6 and 8 1/2. And that is in Pool Party. And then I have a piece of Coastal Cabana that is 4 inches by 5 1/4. And then I have some designer series paper from that North Pole delivery. This was a new release that just came out in September. So just last week, we got this new bundle of designer series paper. And you can see I've cut into it quite a bit because I've made my samples for the class and I've been making some live videos. And there are lots of really fun little patterns that include all these cute little animals and a kind of postal theme to it. And of course, as Stampin' Up! Has started doing for us, which I absolutely love, is that we can take our dies from the set and they will cut out the ones from the designer series paper as well. So keep an eye on, the dies here that match up with the animals on the paper. Isn't that great? But in addition to that, there are 2 pages that come with this set that are nothing but little die cuts. So there's this whole bunch of little tiny, I guess they're not tiny. They're little pieces that are pre-die cut for you that you can go through and just choose which ones you want to use. There's mailboxes and postage stamps and little trucks and some mail, just adorable little stuff, little houses, just super cute. But I'm going to be using the die cuts on Thursday for our Stamping Made Simple. And I thought today we would play with the stamps and we're going to go ahead and die cut those. But let's get our base ready. I'm going to start out down here. So at the 1 1/2, I'm going to make this one a mountain. And then I'm going to make the next a valley. And then we're going to go mountain and valley and then mountain. Okay, so that's going to get us the stepper part of our card. So you can see that they are 1 1/4, 1 1/2, and then 2 1/2. Oh, 1 3/4, 2 1/2. Anyway, different heights. So they're going to start out with that. Then I'm going to take my 4 by 5 1/4, and I'm going to put adhesive just on the bottom. And that one is going to go right here. And so I'm going to align it as if it's a layer. So I'm giving it the border around the outside edge. And then I'm going to layer this one over the top of that. And this is going to be my background scene because it's all the little houses. And then I'm going to have the animals in the foreground. And I thought because this is all a scene in the snow that we would build more snow in the front. So I have some basic white pieces. This is 2 1/4 by 5 1/4, and this is going to go back here. So that's going to be where we're going to stamp to be able to write our message and our inside sentiment. And then I've got a piece that is 5 1/4 by 2 and 5 1/4 by 1 3/4. Now, in order to make this look like snow, I'm going to go ahead and tear this. And so I'm just ripping it, kind of trying to keep a little bit of unevenness to it, because obviously snow doesn't fall totally straight. So I went ahead and just tore that to give us kind of a snowy look. And then what I'm going to do is take our Wink of Stella, and I'm going to use that along the edge, just giving it a little bit of sparkle. Now you don't have to do this, but I just thought I'd give it a little something extra. And because this gives it some sparkle without any of the mess, I thought this would work out great for our snow. Okay, so this is going to be the back piece. So this will go on that step. And then I have one more that's going to go on the front. So once again, I'm going to tear this. And I'm keeping it uneven. And by tearing it towards me, I'm getting that uneven edge in front, or this exposed paper is in the front. Had I torn away from me, we wouldn't see that. So this is what you get when you tear away versus when you tear towards you. Okay. And as I said, a little bit of Wink of Stella is going to give it just some sparkle. Which doesn't pick up on camera real well, but it does. It gives it a little bit of sparkle. It's going to be really pretty. Then, as I said, I'm going to attach these to my steps down here. Almost look like the same size. Way. Going to put one of them here. And the other one here. So again, I'm just doing the seam, or the border as if it was a whole layer, only I'm just watching the 3 sides. And then I'm going to fold it up and make sure that it is indeed matching up with the one behind it. So when the card is overall closed, these don't, jig-jag. They're going to go straight. So there is our snowy foreground. And now we're ready to do some animals and stamp our sentiment. So I brought in some just scraps of basic white. And then I'm going to bring in our animals. And then I'm going to bring in the mailbox. So we're going to go ahead and stamp all of these in Memento Black because I want to color them with our Stampin' blends. And as you remember, we're going to stamp in the opposite medium of what we're coloring in. And so because I am coloring in alcohol ink, I'm stamping in water-based ink. If I was going to be doing watercoloring, then I would stamp with StazOn, which is an alcohol-based ink. So the reverse of my coloring medium. And I don't need them to be straight on here because we're going to go ahead and die cut them out anyway. And because they're all little, they will all fit on our mini cut and emboss machine. So I brought that in. So I'm going to need plate number 1 and then 2 of the plate number 2. Okay, and mine are getting kind of scratched up. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of the scratched up ones and keep that as my bottom. And then I'm going to have a clean plate on top. So when I replace the plates, I don't always do them both at once. I kind of move my older plate to the bottom and put my newer plate on top. And then if you have trouble getting them to stay in place, you may want to use some Post-it tape or a Post-it note or a little piece of washi, something to hold it in place so that it doesn't shift as you run it through the machine. And you can place multiple dies on here at once, especially if you're going to be using the Post-it note to hold them, because I find that if there's more than one, they have a better tendency to shift. Because I'm not using the Post-it tape, I'm going to just do 2 at a time instead of all 4. Also because I may have placed them kind of close together and I don't want them to overlap and hit each other as they go through and do their cuts. Carol Sue is asking, could you put glitter on for the snow? Absolutely. And we used to do that back in the day. Stampin' Up! Used to sell what they call dazzling diamonds, which is a very fine glitter. And we use that for snow. Absolutely. We even had something called heat and stick powder that we could stamp in. Like I could have stamped my polar bear with the heat and stick powder and then use the dazzling diamonds fine glitter over the top for that. So absolutely, that would make beautiful snow. Okay, remember as you're using these plates, you want to be able to turn them each time you use them so that you are giving even wear and tear. I don't know if you can tell, but I've moved the die around. So each time I'm passing it through the machine, it's in a different spot. So there is marks all over my plate. They're not all concentrated just in the center, because we do have a tendency to just place it in the center all the time. And we want them to wear evenly. So be sure to move them around and flip them quite frequently. And I'm going to try a new trick. I have some very warped larger plates, and a gal I was watching one of her YouTube videos. She's not a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, but she does use plates like these for her, I believe, Gemini, something like that. And she said that she boils 2 pots of water, like with her big pots. And then she pours 1 pot of the hot water into like a 9x12 pan, and then sets her plate inside of that, you know, her warped one. And then she takes the second pot of boiling water and she sets it on top. So the bottom of that second pot is sitting on her plate with the hot water on top of it, providing weight. So the hot water surrounding the plate, the hot water sitting on the plate, and then resting until the water cools. She says when you pull it out, they're flat. So I'm anxious to give that a try and see how that works. Also, when she did it, all the little pieces of cardstock and all that floated out of there as well. So kind of a cool tip. I hope it works. If it does, I will definitely be sharing a video with you showing how that works. Okay, has anybody tried that before? I'm going to do a little bit of stamping on my back piece of paper. As I said, that was 5 1/4 by 2 1/4. And then I'm going to use Coastal Cabana as my ink, because it's a little bolder than the Pool Party. Pool Party might be a little too light. You can also do it in basic black, or any of the colors that are used in the designer series paper. Trying to keep it straight on my grid paper so that I can stamp straight. Because remember, when we're mounting our word stamps, I put the line from our grid paper underneath the words, and then I line up my block with one of the lines, and then with the paper lined up, hopefully all that lining up comes together and our sentiment is straight. Okay, then I thought it'd be kind of cute to have that polar bear coming in from the side. But I didn't want the whole bear because he's kind of big. Where did I set my stamp? There we go. So I wanted him over here, just kind of coming in from the side. So what I'm going to do is bring back my black pad. And I'm going to just ink up just his kind of like nose portion. I just want that front area. And so I'm going to position it where I'm not getting the packages on my paper, just his nose and his front paws. See how cute that is? So it gives us the kind of look that's going to tie the front into the back, but it's not taking up a large section and allowing me to have lots of room for my sentiment and my signing. Okay, there's also an adorable little package here, so I'm going to stamp a few of those. And again, I'm kind of going to let it run off the edge. And then we can come back in and do our coloring. As I said, I'm going to be using our Stampin' blends. And I'm not going to color much of the polar bear because obviously he's white. But let's see what else is gray. This right here. So I've got a little, I don't know, maybe he's a badger. And I'm going to use my dark pen on the areas I believe would be shaded and would be a little bit darker. And then after I've got that on there, I'm going to come back in with the lighter and blend together. So when I go over this, I'm going to go right over the top of my dark. And I'm doing little swirls and little swishes and kind of dragging the color around so that one actually blends into the other. So that's how we're going to get our really nice kind of ombre blending to this. And feel free to go right over the top of that initial color. Yes, it was dark and now we're using light, but it's just going to make it blend better. And if it's not blending, you're probably not laying down enough ink. We want to lay down so much ink that it's going to come through on the other side. Okay, that means that it's definitely pulling together and blending around and mixing those two colors, the light and the dark. Okay, got a little scarf on, so we'll color that. Did anybody do anything fun for Memorial Day weekend or Labor Day weekend? What do we just have? Labor Day weekend. I was with my daughter out in New Mexico. She had a really bad week. She's had a foster daughter for, oh gosh, almost 2 years. And she went back to her original mom, which I guess is supposed to be the goal, but it just broke my daughter's heart. Because we were hoping to be able to adopt. And so she just needed her mom. So I went out there and spent the weekend with her. And while I was there, a friend of mine who was recently in a really bad accident also just found out she has cancer. Her stepmom died. So it was not a good trip. Okay, I'm just coloring the boxes in some just Christmas colors. I'm coming in with a dark blue and this is Poppy Parade, which is one of our reds. And if I wanted to kind of give it a little bit of an accent, I'm going to come in with a real red maybe and just come down the middle and add a little bit of a darker red. So even though we do have the light and the dark, sometimes they're not quite drastic enough of a difference, and we may want to bring in a complementary color. Let's see, like there could be something like these are Fresh Freesia and Highland Heather, you know, so those could go well together. Pumpkin Pie and Timid Tiger. Play around on scrap paper and see how they blend together. And I bet you would be really surprised how some of our colors could look beautiful together when you didn't expect them to. Okay, what's another color? Green, I guess. We'll go with green for our last one over here. And then we'll get to coloring our animals. Who ordered from the new catalog or the new online exclusives? Have you been online and checked out all the new products? There was not only the catalog, but there were a lot of online exclusives and 2 new kits that came out. And the kits are card kits, but they come with like an organizer to them. And so they would make great gifts if you're looking for, to start your Christmas shopping, because, oh my gosh, that's coming up fast. And do you remember that on the Stampin' Up! Website, you can create your own wish list? That if you log into your Stampin' Up! Account and you are looking around online, there is a little heart next to some of our products. And you can click that little heart and add it to a wish list that you could give it a name, Christmas wish list, birthday wish list, Christmas wish list for husband, Christmas wish list for kids. I don't know. You give it a name, and then you can email it to people. And you can say, if you're wondering what to get me for Christmas this year, here's my Stampin' Up! Wish list. I would love anything off of this list. And you can just get a hold of Lisa and she will help you order it out, or you can just click the links here. It's pretty awesome. Last year I made an actual YouTube video showing how it's done. So I'll probably link that in one of my newsletters soon, because that's coming up. It's hard to think about when we haven't even hit Halloween yet. But with the economy the way it is, I think I'm going to start spreading out my shopping over a few more paychecks. And obviously, my card making needs to get started early, because there are so many cards to make that I'm going to need some time to get those done. So I'll need to make sure I've ordered enough product and have the right stamp sets on hand, and then get busy crafting. Because it's not as much fun when you feel rushed. If you can start early and just have fun with it, I think that's always more preferable than making yourself stressed out. That's not the plan. Stampin' Up! Is supposed to be stress-free. It's supposed to be what we do to relax and to just enjoy being creative. Let's see. I'm going to do one of these in blue. See, and this is my lighter one, so let's start with dark. I know some people start with the light and then go dark. I go in the reverse. I start with dark and go light. I'm not going to say that there is a wrong way and a right way to do anything. When you're doing art, do what you like. You do where you're getting the best result for what you're trying to do. Try it both ways. And if you prefer going dark and then light, great. If you prefer going light and then dark, there's nothing wrong with that. You do what works for you. But do lots of blending to get the best result out of the stamping blends, because obviously that's what they're intended to do, is blend. And they do that by having enough ink that can flow together. Also, you'll notice as I color, I will often turn the paper too, because you want to keep your hand comfortable as you color. It allows you to be more accurate if you're not trying to fight it. Red back. Yeah, I wanted the cat to be kind of a patchwork kind of cat. So I just kind of went in and did a little bit of just making spots. You could maybe make it calico if you added a little black, maybe a little bit of gray. See, not all animals are exactly, one solid color. Some of them are kind of a little blend of something. Okay. Looks like we got one more animal, and then we can start putting this card together. And then, as I said, I've got some really cool cards to show you that we made at retreat. And I have the card we're going to be doing on Thursday for our Stamping Made Simple. So hang out. It's going to be worth it. One of the cards we did at retreat was an interactive one. It came out really cute. It's got these pop-out panels. They were quite excited about it when we made it. And it's not in any of my books. So I don't know. Just when I think we've got all the fun folds into a book, along come more. So there might even be a volume 4. Who knows? There keep being more patterns. We might need more books because I really like having them all together. I mean, that's how I came up with today's card. Because I was just back from being gone for so long, what I did is I pulled out my Fun Fold book, and then I just kind of flipped through and tried to decide what one I wanted to work with that I could adapt into something that I had. And so that's when I came up. I thought, oh, I haven't done this stepper card in a while. And so there were all my measurements and instructions and everything I needed to make today's card. And they don't take up very much room, and they're easy to grab and use as examples. So even I use them. Sure beats having to dig through a file folder of a whole bunch of my scribbled notes, because half an hour after I write my scribbled notes, I don't know what they're about. Like, I can't tell you, as I was building the books, how many scraps of paper had all these random measurements all over it, and I didn't even put down the name of the card, where it came from, what I was trying to do. It's just a set of measurements. It was not very helpful. So getting them all organized for myself and then being able to share it with you has been fabulous. I do appreciate all of the support I'm getting on that. The download is just $50 for 50 patterns, and so it works out to just $1 a pattern, which is actually a really good deal. If you were to go buy those all as individual tutorials, it would cost you a lot more than $50. And I do have some individual tutorials, but they're $3 each. Or you can get 6 for 10. Okay. So there we go. There's all our little colored animals. Sometimes I try to color them in advance because I feel like I'm wasting your time. And then I have people message me and say that they love to watch me color. So this time, those who like to watch me color got their wish. Maybe next time, people who want me to speed it up will get theirs. Okay, so I was just going to take and glue our mailbox. And I'm just putting glue dots at the bottom because I actually want it to kind of stand up over the snow, because obviously it wouldn't be buried under the snow, right? It would be sitting kind of up on the sidewalk with a little bit of snow near it. And then our polar bear would be walking that way too, kind of on the snow, not under it. And so I just went ahead and stuck a mini glue dot under each one of his feet, because that's going to give me some pretty solid anchoring. And then make sure that there's no glue up here, so I'm not gluing my card shut. This guy, I don't know, looks like he's kind of leaping. So I kind of put him on at an angle. Oh, and see, that time I have a little sticky back here. I don't know if you can see that, but I got my glue dot a little high. And so that's sticky. Now, if I was to close that, that would stick to here or up to here, and that would not be a good thing. So I'm going to just come in with my embossing buddy, and I'm just kind of swirling it over that glue dot, and now that's no longer sticky. So my cat is still stuck where I want him, and it's not going to stick my card shut. It still comes open. So, okay, here we have our little dachshund. And I want to make sure that his tail is going to be inside the card, so it's not hanging over the outside edge. And then we just have our last guy here. So there is our stepper card, kind of a top view, front view, kind of a side view, and the back. So what do you think? Is this a design you would use? So that's our stepper card using the North Pole Delivery Suite, which I will be using with Diane Evans for our online retreat. And then my in-person, I said I would share with you the cards that we made. So here is one of them. The fun part about this was that we colored with watercolor paper and some ink blocks. We took or stamping blocks and we stamped it into the ink pad and then used a water painter and created our drinks. And then we came back and used a little bit of lifting to get the ice cubes to be a little lighter. Here we did kind of a squeeze box, a shadow box type card. And this time we cut the drinks out of the designer series paper. Not everybody likes cocktails, so we did use the flower paper out of this and created a fun fold that stands up like that. And this is using Peace on Earth. And you could use any stamps that you had for this one. I just wanted to show that it doesn't have to be drinks and cocktails. And this could actually, yeah, this is lemonade, not even cocktails. Here's another one that we did where this was a dry embossed and then I swiped over it with white ink, or you could use the two-tone cardstock and get that kind of effect. Here we're using those partial drinks that are on the edge of the designer series paper. Here's an easel card we did. And this one we just popped up one of the drinks. I cut an additional one and put it on dimensionals. So with the retreat package, you get everything that we got at the retreat, plus the packets to make 2 of each of these cards. But this was the one they got all excited about, this little hideaway peekaboo thing. So you get to learn how to do this. So that was the Cheers and Sips Royal Retreat. Here is today's card. And then I had the one for Thursday. I know I had it. We're going to be doing the swing card. It's over on my table where I was taking pictures. This is what we're doing on Thursday, and we're using the die cuts that come as part of the paper pack. So tons and tons of fun ideas, and I'm excited to share them all with you. So thank you. Ooh, gotta move that. Sorry. That's my microphone built into that webcam. There, sorry about that. As I said, I do have a microphone on order. It's supposed to be here tomorrow. And so hopefully all these microphone technical issues are all gonna come to an end. So thank you so much to all of you who have been here and shared today's cards with me. And I look forward to seeing you on Thursday for our next Facebook and YouTube Live. Thank you so much. Bye.